Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast, the Same Leader 13, and we are preparing to get underway for a special for you. For those of you who are in the know, tomorrow is TORA's 24-hour Le Mans event, but tonight we're going to have something a little bit different on the same circuit. We are going to be watching several of TORA's best drivers running Mazda Miatas here in a two-part event. Qualifying has already been accomplished, so let me real quickly run you down what you can look forward to in tonight's event. You will be looking at two different races, each of them 5 laps each. The first lap has been ordered by qualifying, which has already ended. After the first event is over, though, we will have a complete grid inversion, and then they will go for another 5 laps. Mind you, a lap around here takes you almost 5 minutes. Now, there'll be a little bit extra time maybe cut off if drivers are really good at manipulating the draft, but these are going to be a pair of 25-minute races here. We're going to be here for a little bit, but ladies and gentlemen, I'm very interested to see what these drivers can put on some slow, easy-to-handle cars on a circuit that is well known for being wide open and flat out as we're preparing to load onto the circuit for tonight's race here. As you can see, they're going to get the grid lined up real quickly for us all here. Fourteen drivers will take part in tonight's event. Still waiting on the final proper lineup for everyone to get finalized here before we load onto the circuit. While yellow flags could happen, it's very unlikely we'll see them. Damage is turned on, but again, with how slow everyone is, I highly doubt we're actually going to see any instance cause significant catastrophic damage. There is accelerated tire wear and fuel consumption, though. Well, not fuel consumption. Accelerated tire wear and time progression, though. So do keep an eye on that because the track conditions are going to change, not only from race 1 to race 2, but also within the event itself. Here we are, as our field loads onto the grid here. Now we're likely going to see them reverse and try to get a proper grid order down before they actually launch off the line here. Nope, that is not the case. They are going right off the line. So we are green, and it's going to be Darkser and Mashiro right at the head of the field with EVR Stone already making moves farther back in the grid as they fly uphill through turn 1. Briefly, they're going to get 3 wide. Someone's going to have to back out early, but there is a horde of cars behind. You can't just back out and unexpect to get run over. A big amount of contact between two of them. And it looks like Mashiro is going to end up slipping just a little bit, and it is going to be Mashiro in the lead. And look at that, 4 wide there for the 3rd spot. Stone is there, Iris is there, Rostuds is there, Blaze is there. It's gotten absolutely insane already. And we may have already had somebody drop out. Are they going to reset? Yes, it looks like they're going to reset. So there's been some sort of catastrophic lobby failure, and we're going to have to try again. A promising start, but seems like everything fell apart regardless. Alright. Well, that's not supposed to be a thing. No, quickly. Yep. Nothing else is going to be changed. That might end up semi-randomizing the order as they prepare to load onto the circuit here. We'll keep an eye on that. Well, on attempt number 1, we saw Darkster and Mashiro having quite a bit of contact at the head of the field, and while it looked like at first Mashiro might be in a lot of trouble, he actually ended up being way better off of it than Darkster was, while the field went 4 wide behind them, going into the Dunlop curves. So now, attempt number 2, drivers will have a little bit better idea as to what the start of this event's going to look like here. I'm very curious as to how much different or what level of difference we are going to see on this reattempt at a start. Still, it was relatively clean. Didn't see any issues. Didn't see any massive impacts or drivers going off circuit here. Cars are relatively slow, have a lot of handling, and the circuit, while it's not the widest track in Europe, it is pretty wide, and there is plenty of room to move around here. So it looks like the main reason we have had to do a lobby reset was because there were collision issues with Ending Nightfall. Apparently Ending Nightfall had issues where they did not have proper collision on the circuit. Looks like everyone is back already. Sadly, we're not able to show off schemes right now. Though for those of you who were here earlier in the event, we had, well, earlier in the stream, I shouldn't say the event, but earlier in the stream, we did cover qualifying silently, and you could see a few of the paint schemes there. All right. And here we go, attempt number 2 at getting the grid underway here for a 5-lap race. It's going to be a standing start right off the line, so no backing up to order up, no pace laps. They're just going to go green right off the line here. All right, 7 rows of 2. Should take them about 25 minutes to get this underway here. And we're off. Take 2. Has anyone learned any new tricks, any new ideas? It's going to be Darkster and Mashiro at the front again. Iris, Stone, Rostud's all just behind, ready to capitalize if Darkster or Mashiro go a little bit too aggressive here. I think that's Stone who's already pulling up alongside Mashiro. So Darkster had a better launch, and here comes the lunge by 26, but it's not willing to commit to the move. Darkster has a bit of a slide, and now here comes the crossover on the way out, but no. Darkster got the power down nice and smooth, holds the position, and someone is sliding. That's Mashiro! Mashiro, the first attempt at the event had gone fine, but this attempt has gone absolutely disastrous, and Mashiro has now slipped back to last position in the field. From the front row to last for Mashiro. And this is great news for Darkster, because now Darkster can try to break away and delete the draft, get away from the likes of Stone, Iris, and Rostuds. Here is Stone. Looks like Darkster went a little bit wide farther up there. Stone has a run. He's bringing HYR Iris with him there. 3 wide behind with Bacon, Rostuds, and TNR Blade. That is HYZ Zellum, who didn't have a great time in qualifying, but they're already making moves up the grid. And it looks like Stone is closing in on Darkster as well, but they're coming up on the first braking zone already. Look at this. 4 cars all figuring out a way to be 3 abreast amongst all of them. And at the head of the field, side by side between Stone and Darkster, Stone gets the car about 2/3 of the way alongside Darkster, but he's on the outside line, has to brake nice and early as they come into the first of the Mulsanne chicanes. Darkster has a better traction coming out of the corner, puts the power down. Look at HYR Iris. Iris now blitzes by Stone, and now it's going to be Iris who's going to have the draft off of Darkster, and we'll try to close down on Darkster down the second of 3 consecutive long straightaways here. TNR Blade gets by Stone as well, so Stone goes from leading going into the chicane to 4th on the way to the next chicane. Here comes Iris. Iris, though, is going to be the one with the inside line coming in, and it looks like Blade's going to go by Darkster as well, so Iris and Blade are now side by side. Darkster looks to the inside. Does he go for a big move? No, but he does get back by Blade, but it is Iris who leads over Darkster as they now come out of the second of the Mulsanne chicanes. And now they come up to the hill and into what is, at least normally, the heaviest braking zone on the circuit. Iris leads. Darkster runs in second. 3rd place is Blade. 4th is EVR Stone. Then a little bit farther back is Racing Bacon. Darkster looking to the outside as they crest the top of the hill. And now start heading back downwards. Iris has the ideal inside line of choice, but Darkster, if he can keep it side by side, can maybe put the power down smoothly and power out. A little bit of contact between the 2 of them, and that is exactly what Darkster is able to do. Darkster smooth on the power on corner exit and goes right back in front of Iris. No issue whatsoever. EVR Stone and Blade fighting back there for 3rd and 4th, and now Racing Bacon has just about caught them. Dragon Man really having trouble keeping up with the rest of the field, it seems, right now. But it is a 5-car breakaway, or it looks like a 5-car breakaway, at least at the head of the field. Here comes Iris back to the inside of Darkster as they're coming up to the Indianapolis and Arnage complex. Heavy under braking through here. Ooh, crossover! And a fantastic crossover move by Darkster as well. He keeps the car under him, though. Iris struggles just a little bit, and Darkster not only pulls off that crossover move, but carries a perfect amount of momentum through Indianapolis and now through Arnage, this flat 90-degree right-hander. And now they have a nice little acceleration up to the Porsche curves. That kind of split up this lead group a bit. Now it's just Darkster, Iris, and Blade in a 3-car breakaway at the head of the field. Iris has the draft on Darkster, but is not close enough to make a move on them right now. Into the Porsche curves. Ooh, big slide by Blade back there. Darkster's just a little bit wide. Iris pulls up alongside. You don't want to be side by side through these corners in normal cars, but these cars are so much slower and so much tinier, you can actually make it work side by side in here, although Iris has a big sim twitch there, trying to follow. Blade has slipped back into the grasp of Stone and Racing Bacon, so it is Darkster and Iris right now at the head of this field. Big slide out of the rear for Iris. Blade and Stone go way wide farther back there, and I think that was Zellum who nearly spun out. Alright, to the Ford chicanes. And we will have completed 1 entire lap here around Le Mans. Yolo Menace is pitting. Real quickly, let's look at the fuel and tire wear. 44% still in the fuel tank, 16% wear in a single lap, though. Ooh, that suggests that 5 laps, you're going to be at 75% tire, 75 to 80% tire wear after 5 laps if you're not pitting. So drivers may be in a very, very interesting position where they have to decide when the optimal time is to make a pit stop. But it is Darkster who started on the pole, who leads. Iris runs in second. Then it's a bit of a gap back to TNR Blade in third, then Racing Bacon and EVR Stone. After spinning out this part of the track on lap 1, Mashiro has recovered up to 10th, but only up to 10th thus far. There's a bit of a gap in the field between 8th and 9th place, according to the ticker. But I'm keeping my eye at the head of the field as Iris continues to stalk Darkster. Looks like Iris will have a good chance to make a great draft run on Darkster here. TNR Blade runs in third. If these two spend too much time fighting against each other, going side by side, Blade could get a great draft on them and really close the gap down. Here comes Iris now to the outside of Darkster, side by side down the first of 3 consecutive Mulsanne straightaways. Darkster is not even going to fight it. Darkster lets off the throttle and pulls in line behind Iris down the straightaway. Now looks back to what will be the inside as they come to the braking zone. Who goes deeper under braking? And it's going to be Darkster pretty handily. Easily goes way deeper under braking. And powers out with no issue whatsoever. So Darkster retakes the top spot. Saw that Iris had the run, let Iris get the run, and then just out-braked Iris coming into the subsequent corner. Blade continues to run in third, just on the edge of the draft of our top 2 right now. And then it is a big gap back to HYZ Zellum, who didn't have a great time in qualifying, but has now cracked their way up to 4th spot. Iris now looking to the left-hand side of Darkster, side by side as they come into the second chicane. This time, Iris is going to clear Darkster, and I don't think Darkster is going to have a chance to try and do a outbraking maneuver coming in. No outbraking maneuver coming in. What about on the way out? It looks like Iris had no problem putting the power down. So it is Iris, Darkster, and Blade. 1, 2, 3 at the head of the field. HYZ Zellum is there in 4th place, fighting with Racing Bacon, Toaster Lord, and Raw Studs right now. Although it looks like Raw Studs is kind of losing touch with that group. Just a bit. And still, Zellum and Bacon side by side here for the position. And at the head of the field, Darkster coming around the outside and will complete the overtake on Iris in the heaviest braking zone. A little bit of tire squilling though. Darkster had trouble getting the power down coming out of Mulsanne corner. And that's let Iris get right back there. And here comes Blade as well. Darkster is going to be the meat in the sandwich here. Iris to the inside, Blade to the outside. They are 3 wide on the run down to the Indianapolis and Arnage corner. Someone has to back out of it. Who's it going to be? Last time it was Iris who backed out and Darkster went deep, but now there are 3 of them. So at least 2 of them, I imagine, will have to back out of it. Who's it going to be? There's still 3 abreast. Perfectly 3 abreast here as they fire it off down into Indianapolis. It looks like once again it is Iris who breaks off early. Darkster has a big slide but is able to maintain the position through Indianapolis, and Darkster holds on to the top spot. It looks like Darkster has a little bit more confidence in the car and is willing to take it a lot deeper and carry a little bit more speed through those corners. Blade gets by Iris, but Blade has a bit of an issue coming out of Arnage, and now Iris pulls back up alongside Blade, and while those 2 are fighting, Darkster is going to try and get away a little bit, potentially break the draft here early in the event. Zellum is still fighting back there with Racing Bacon, although right now it's less of a fight and more of a 2-car tandem, as Bacon is trying to shove Zellum in a straight line so the 2 of them can get away from Toaster Lord and maybe close in on the top 3 just a bit. Looks like Darkster, Iris, and Blade had a nice smooth run coming into the Porsche curves this time. Iris is right behind Darkster again, but not really in a position to make a big dive, make a big move through here. Bit of a slide from Darkster though, right ahead. That backs all 3 of them up. Iris gonna look to the outside. Side by side, they're making a little bit of no contact. They kept it clean. And Darkster still has it somehow, but that backed them up quite a bit, and now the duo of Bacon and Zellum are within 2.5 seconds of this lead trio. Do either of our leaders pit at the end of this lap? No, all 3 of them will stay out for now. It's still Darkster, Iris, and Blade at the head of the field. Blade backs out a little bit in the 4 chicanes, trying to wind up for a fantastic exit. Darkster leads at the end of lap 2. 3 more circuits around here in this race. But again, remember, there is another race afterwards. If you're having a bad time, do you consider aborting your run here, just dropping to the back of the grid and letting the field inversion potentially save you for race 2? Iris is right there behind Darkster still. A bit of a jump over the curbs, and Iris not having the best of times here. Looks like Blade's going to be able to get alongside Iris, and Darkster is vanishing into the wind now. Blade clears Iris, and now he tries to close in on Darkster, trying to make a move on Darkster this time by. maybe not into the braking zone, but potentially it would be better and more advisable to make the move. As they go down the straightaway here, Iris gets a great run on Blade, pulls up right behind Blade. Blade has a run on Darkster. Blade's going to go to the outside of Darkster. Iris giving Blade a big shove, and they're going to go right by Darkster, basically as if he's standing still. That looks like a 7 to 10 mile an hour difference in speed. And now look at this. Iris looks to the inside of Blade. So now it's side by side between Iris and Blade as they come to the first of the chicanes this time by. Heavy under braking. This time Iris goes deep, and Iris is the one who's going to be able to stay on top. Doesn't look like they have any major issue putting the power down on exit. And Blade is able to follow them right out of the chicane, and now down the next straightaway. Again, 3 consecutive Mulsanne straightaways. Realistically, we have 4 consecutive straightaways here, and it looks like Darkster is now really starting to fall off. Has Darkster damaged his engine at some point? Oh, yes, Darkster has engine damage, 8.6% engine damage. So he'll have to pit at the end of this lap just for engine damage alone, but he is going to be in for a world of hurt once Zellum, Raw Studs, and Racing Bacon catch him. This is a big glut of cars that all have way more speed, and they will be happy to go for a shot at podium position here. But it looks like it is Raw Studs, for the moment, holding 4th spot in this little fight. Zellum, Racing Bacon, Toaster Lord, all right there as well. And now they are all barreling down, slowly but surely, on Darkster. As Blade and Iris now, up at the head of the field, scooting off into the distance. I imagine one or both of them could consider pitting at the end of this lap. In fact, I imagine most of the field will consider pitting at the end of this lap just to jump onto new tires. For Darkster, though, not only is he losing time now, this also means that he's going to end up spending slightly more time in pit road as well, getting the engine damage repaired. Blade still leads Iris a second. Darkster hasn't been caught by Zellum yet, but it does look like it's coming. Zellum, I think, is just about to catch Darkster's draft here. It's only about 9/10 of a second difference between Zellum and Darkster right now. Iris and Blade side by side as they're on the run down to the Indianapolis and Arnage complex once again. Iris on the outside, Blade on the inside. Who goes deeper into braking this time? It is Iris. Blade actually backed out nice and early. Iris a little bit sideways, but they are able to hold station here. Iris holding station over Blade for the moment. And it looks like Raw Studs didn't have a great time coming into Indianapolis. Slipped back to the back of this group. And now Zellum has caught Darkster and is bringing Racing Bacon with them. And again, Zellum, not a great time in qualifying, but they are really making hay right now in the race proper. That will be an easy overtake, having a significant extra amount of horsepower in the straights. Iris holding station over Blade at the head of the field right now. So Zellum to 3rd, Bacon to 4th, Darkster just barely holding on to them in 5th right now. But Bacon and Zellum are still 2.5 seconds out from our top 2 right now. And now Bacon gets by Zellum, and Zellum actually briefly falls behind Darkster as well. And again, we anticipate we're going to see the entire field, if not most of the field, pitting at the end of this lap here. Just due to how extreme the tire wear has been today. And that is exactly the case for our leaders. In fact, the entire top 5 pits. In fact, yes, everyone indeed is going to be pitting this time by. Doesn't look like not a single driver in the top 10 elected to stay out. Everyone is in agreement to pit at the end of lap 3, it appears. The only exception to that will probably be YOLO Menace, who pitted at the end of lap 1. Now, whether it was because they're on an alternate strategy or they had to repair damage, I am unsure. But now we take a look at our leaders as they're coming out of pit road now. Begin lap 4. Power down. Iris and Blade easily holding on to the top spots. Racing Bacon to 3rd. Zellum 4th. Darkster is 5th. Rostud 6th, Toaster Lord 7th, EVR Stone 8th, Mashiro 9th, in the Nightfall 10th. And then Jagged, Lamborghini, and Dragonman haven't yet come out of the pits. Jagged will be 11th, Lamborghini 12th, and Dragonman will be 13th. And all of them will maintain their position over YOLO Menace as Iris and Blade immediately go back to fighting at the head of the field. Now, if they spend too much time fighting, they run the risk of dragging Bacon, Zellum, and Darkster into the fray. If anything, I feel that for these two, it would be in their best interest to not spend too much time fighting each other and just try to give each other big shoves. Oh, big slide by Blade as they come onto the first of the straightaways. And Iris shoots to the inside and easily clears Blade. But as I was saying, I think it's in these two's best interest to just minimize their fighting, spend as little time side by side as possible, and just try and give each other big slam drafts and pushes down the straightaways to try and break away from the rest of the field. Because right now, the way it's looking, if Bacon catches them, it's not just going to be Bacon catching them, Zellum would catch them, Darkster would be back there as well, and there's a potential that Raw Studs and Toaster Lord would be there. So Blade and Iris need to be very, very conservative and clever with how they're going to do this at the field. Iris goes really deep into the braking zone in the first of the Mulsanne chicanes and will power out, still with the lead. Blade is still in second. Darkster makes their way up into third position, has just cleared Racing Bacon by the looks of it. Raw Studs there behind, followed by Zellum, Toaster Lord, and then EVR Stone you can see in the background a little bit farther back. But Darkster had a really good exit there. Racing Bacon trying to use the draft to negate some of the advantage that Darkster had on corner exit. Blade and Iris side by side again as they're coming into the next of the Mulsanne chicanes. But I'm looking at this. Is Bacon going to go for a dive bomb lunge on Darkster? Yes, indeed, they do. And it's enough to make it work. So Bacon goes back in front of Darkster. And now that group is back to being about 2.2 seconds out from the lead. So while this group is fighting, Blade and Iris are continuing to scoot away from the rest of the field now. Up over the top of the hill. Now they fire off down to the heaviest braking corner once again. Darkster looking for a move on Racing Bacon farther back there. No change at the head of the field. It will still be Iris range just ahead of Blade. Is still Bacon and Darkster, third and fourth, with Zellum hanging out in fifth right now, and that group of cars is not closing on our lead duo of Iris and Blade at all. Down the fourth of what is basically 4 consecutive straightaways here. This duo is still running side by side, so who's going to go deeper into braking this time? Oh, looks like Blade broke early, and Iris, while they didn't take as much speed in as last time, they had a nice smooth time through. But Blade didn't lose too much time. Oh, Iris was a little bit wide coming out of Indianapolis, and Blade coming to the outside to go to Arnage, but Blade doesn't want to be side by side through there. He backs out of it, hoping that Iris compromises her line coming out of Arnage. They do! Iris is a big compromise out of Arnage. Here comes Blade on the comeback. Side by side between these two again now as they come back to the Porsche curbs. Slowly running back uphill once again, and that little hiccup let third place close to within 2 seconds. So Iris and Blade, they're not perfect here at the head of the field. There's still an opportunity for someone further back to capitalize if they keep making mistakes like this. And this time it is Blade who backs out as they come into the Porsche curves. So Iris leading at the head of the field once again. Blade looks to the outside and he's a little bit wide. Did he touch the wall? If he did, it was by a small amount. Blade really sliding around. Trying to go a little bit too deep, taking a little bit too much into these corners, I wonder. Big twitch and slide from Iris. Blade still right there. Darkster extends the track, and so does Racing Bacon as well. So Darkster and Racing Bacon really hyperextended back there, trying to close in on Iris and Blade coming to the final lap. White flag in the flagman's hands. There will be one more lap to go when our leaders hit the line here. Power out of the final corner across the line. It is Iris who leads by about half a second over Blade, but Darkster has caught Blade. Darkster might go from damaging his engine to still winning this race. But the thing is, the entirety of the top 7 are all close enough that the draft might bring them all back on top of each other by the time we can finish 4 consecutive straightaways here. Iris didn't have a great time there, and neither did Blade. Darkster now within 9/10 of the lead, but Darkster is under threat from Racing Bacon again. Darkster's actually lost a bit of time. Bacon gets back by. Was that the break that Iris and Blade needed to make sure that this fight was settled between the two of them? Oh, big twitch from Iris once again. Blade has a run. Not going to make a move coming into this corner. Ideally, you want to make the move on the straightaway after it. Blade hyperextends again. This time it was a little bit more controlled. It wasn't the big slide that we saw from him a few laps ago. Now into the first of 4 consecutive straightaways. This duo is about a second and a half ahead of Racing Bacon. Darkster slipped to 5th. Zellum back up to 4th. Side by side between Blade and Iris. Blade on the outside, Iris on the inside. And Zellum and Bacon side by side behind them, and that's Darkster, who might be trying to make it 3 wide back there. Yes, Darkster is going to make it 3 wide back there. Iris goes nice and deep under the brakes, and now leaves themselves open to a comeback from Blade, though, at the head of the field. But Iris barely gets the power down well enough to hold station, but Blade has the draft, and will use that to immediately pull back alongside. They're still maintaining a decent gap over Darkster, who's back into the 3rd position, though. Right now, Blade and Iris still side by side as they come to the 2nd Mulsanne chicane for the final time in this race. Now they're 3 wide again back there as Zellum is going to go to the extreme inside to make it 3 wide again. Racing Bacon says, I'm having none of this. He backs out of it altogether. Iris goes nice and deep into the 2nd Mulsanne chicane, holds station over Blade. Bit of a twitch from Iris. Has Zellum closed the gap down to the top 2 at all? It does not look like it. And now Blade looks back to the outside of Iris. Side by side for a lead as they come into... Oh. Wrong camera. My apologies. As they come into the heaviest braking zone on the circuit. Zellum on the inside, Darkster on the outside. It looks like Darkster has the momentum, able to get the power down nice and smoothly on that wider outside line, and will use that to get back ahead of Zellum for the moment. They are still a second and a half off of the lead. It is still Iris leading Blade. Blade once again looks to the outside. Iris holding the inside, side by side. Down the straightaway once again. Into the Indianapolis and Arnage corners once again. The last 2 laps, Iris was way more aggressive here than Blade was. Are we going to see a repeat of that? Yes, Blade backs out early. Iris takes a little bit too much momentum, is sliding just a bit. Blade trying to look to the outside. The momentum isn't there. Iris does not go into the dirt this time. Blade still has a better run, but it's not an ideal place. You don't want to be on the outside in Arnage. They come out of Arnage, and now the run up to the Porsche curves for the final time in this race. Iris leads, Blade 2nd, Darkster 1.2 seconds out. I think it's all but confirmed that as long as Iris and Blade don't wreck each other in the Porsche curves, this race win will be settled between the two of them. Blade looking to make a move on the right-hand side of Iris. Blade's gonna get plenty of speed, gets the nose ahead as they come into the braking zone. Side by side into the Porsche curves. These cars are small enough you can go side by side through here. But someone's got to make a mistake. Someone's got to back out at some point. It's going to be Blade. Blade licks the outside wall just a bit. And Iris is sideways. Iris hit the dirt. Is a little bit sideways. Blade is right back on Iris. And here comes Darkster. Darkster's back in drafting range. But there's only a handful of corners left. Iris is wide. Oh, big slide from Darkster back there. And Darkster and Bacon both extended a bit. They're both about half a second out, but there's just not going to be enough track for them to make the move. It is Blade and Iris side by side, but Blade has the car most of the way ahead of Iris into the braking zone. Blade defends aggressively. Iris shoots it very aggressively in. The final chicane. Is there anything Iris can do? No! Blade will come out of the final corner. Checkered flags in the air, and it's going to be Blade who wins. Iris 2nd, Darkster rebounds to 3rd, Zellum 4th, Racing Bacon 5th, Rostud 6th, Toaster Lord 7th, Mashiro only recovers to 8th, Stone will be 9th, And then it looks like it will be ending Nightfall in 10th. 11th will be Jagged SGT by the looks of it. 12th will be Dragon Man. 13th will be Lamborghini. And 14th will be YOLO Menace. And it looks like that will round out the grid for the rest of Race 1. And reminder, we have a second race right after this one. And in that second race, the entire field will be inverted. So, do not go away. We will want to see that race 2, and we will also try to get an interview with TNR Blade after race 2 is over as well. But a fantastic time, a fantastic first race, and we still have one more to do. As real quickly we see this podium session here. And the hope, I do say hope, the hope is that Twitch will play nice with me and will let me cover the entirety of race 2 also with no ad breaks. But in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and take a Twitch mandated ad break right now. And when we come back, we will get underway for race 2 here for the Mazda Miatas here at LeMans. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you back here to LeMans as we are preparing to get underway for race 2 of 2. Our first race was in the daytime. The second race is going to be at night. What does that entail in differences? Well, the big thing is going to be tires are going to get a lot cooler. Now, these are already relatively long straights, and you're not going very fast. You're not spending a lot of time on the brakes either. You will see a lot of bleed off in the heat of the tires in this race because the track temperature is going to be a lot lower. Beyond that, though, I imagine we're not going to see a whole lot else different. The other question I would have, though, is everyone going to go ahead and commit to a pit stop at the end of lap 3, or is someone going to go ahead and roll the dice and try to split the race differently, pit at the end of lap 2 instead? The thing is, the draft is so powerful, if you're the only driver doing that, that may not serve you any significant benefit, but if there are 2 or 3 other people who are around your pace willing to do the same thing, that may help. The big thing is, I would argue more than anything else, the draft is supercharged and super important. But it's not so big that it's like a NASCAR, Daytona, or Talladega race where you have to wait until the last corner and the last lap to make the move. You do seem to want to make those moves as early as you can on the final lap. If you're not ahead by the time you come out of the fourth consecutive straightaway, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's going to be hard to get a position back. As real quickly we see them reorganizing the grid here for race 2 at Le Mans. Again, assuming no hiccups and no issues, we should be able to cover this entire second event with no ad breaks as well. If you guys like Le Mans, like I do, is my favorite currently existing track in the world, don't you worry. Tomorrow we will be covering many stints for TORA's 24 Hours of Le Mans on this channel, and I will not be the only one. There will be many other channels on Twitch, including the official TORA channel, covering that event tomorrow. So I highly encourage you check us out during tomorrow's event. It's going to be racing for a full 24-hour period. There will almost always be someone streaming something from Le Mans in the GT3 versus hypercar / prototypes in tomorrow's event. But right now our focus is still on the MX-5s. No grid reordering, no pace lap, is going to be a standing start right off the line. LeMans didn't have a great time in race 1. Can they do anything better in race 2, starting at the head of the grid, as we are off once again? Lamborghini right there. Dragon Man is there. What can Blade, the winner of the last event, do? We have dropped one driver from race 1 to race 2, so Blade has one fewer person he'll have to worry about passing if he wants to go back-to-back wins here. Side by side between LeMans and Lamborghini at the end of the field. Big slide by LeMans. But he's still there ahead of Lamborghini now. Looks like the field is still relatively nice and clean as I go through the Dunlop S's this time by. Lamborghini looking to the inside of LeMans, but makes a mistake, hits the dirt, and that is Mashiro. Mashiro back to second. It was not a great time, and LeMans into the dirt. LeMans is into the dirt, and that's going to let Mashiro go right back by. While Mashiro went off circuit after contact in the first few corners of race 1, and here in race 2, they're already leading and trying to break away from the rest of the field. LeMans, Lamborghini, ending nightfall. It has become absolute chaos. They're about second on back, and Mashiro is trying to vanish into the distance now. They are already 3 wide there for the 4th position. Look at that. Zellum has already made their way up in the 4th position. For comparison, Iris and Darkstar are still only in 8th and 9th right now. Zellum is absolutely hustling it right now. Zellum makes their way up into the 2nd spot, and they are still trying to barrel down on Mashiro. Racing Bacon now in 2nd spot, side by side by side. So many contacts, so many cars, and there are cars all over the place. The 96 and 75 get into it. That's Bacon and Zellum. There's somebody who I think may have touched the tires back there, but I cannot see very well. It looks like Ending Nightfall has dropped out of the event. Ending Nightfall has left the group now, it seems. And we may have drivers with damaged cars here. Darkstar is running incredibly slow right now, but I don't see any damage on their machine. Lamborghini also seems to be running slow. Any damage there? I don't see any damage on their car, but Ending Nightfall has already dropped out of it. Mashiro leads by about 2.3 seconds over, well, the game says 2.3 seconds over Racing Bacon. That does not look like 2.3 seconds to me. As Racing Bacon and HYZ Zellum trying to run down on Mashiro here. And we're not even halfway through the first lap, and that was absolute chaos back there. And now they come up to the top of the hill before firing it back down into the Mulsanne corner. TNR Blade, the winner of race 1, has pulled his way out of all that chaos, has ended up in 5th position somehow, fighting with what looks to be Jagged SGT right now. Iris is in 7th, but Darkstar back there in 12th has lost an extremely large amount of time. Bacon has closed the gap down on Mashiro. Zellum has actually lost Bacon just a little bit. So they're coming down to Indianapolis and Arnage. Now, this corner complex was complicated enough in the daytime, but now with the reduced visibility at night, and these two drivers fighting for the win, a position they were not able to do in the last race. Who's going to go deeper? Do either of them end up going too deep? Racing Bacon on the outside of Mashiro. Can't complete the pass before the braking zone, though. Who brakes earlier? I didn't see either of them brake. They both slammed their cars in. They're still side-by-side as they come through Indianapolis. They're still side-by-side as they come out of Indianapolis. And now they come down to Arnage. Mashiro and Racing Bacon are not afraid of going side-by-side through Indianapolis and Arnage. Crossover move from Racing Bacon. Racing to the inside. Tries to crossover. Gets back alongside Mashiro, but does not have the horsepower to just outrun them. And Zellum hangs out in third. Right behind the top two, but not in a position to make the move. Bacon scoots the nose ahead of Mashiro just a little bit now. Coming up to the Porsche curves again. Someone has to back out in here, otherwise they will have an incident. Right on board Zellum as our top two go deep under braking just ahead. Who's it gonna be? Who backs out? We see Bacon touches the dirt on the inside, and it looks like it's Mashiro who now hits the dirt. He goes wide. Bacon looks back to the inside. Bacon has to back out of it. Mashiro's offline. Zellum is right behind, but there's no room for him to get by. And finally, Bacon backs off a bit and lets Mashiro hold the top spot for a bit now. Oh, but that's a big slide by Mashiro, a little bit wide, sideways over the curves, and Bacon has a run. Bacon looks for the run, drops 2 tires in the dirt, still has the momentum, and now Bacon goes back in front of Mashiro. And here comes Zellum. Zellum now looks to the inside. And in through the 4 chicanes for the first time in this night race, and it is Bacon, Zellum, and Mashiro, and LeMans still hanging out in 4th position with Blade in 5th, Iris in 6th. All right, so Zellum now into the 2nd spot, putting their sights on Racing Bacon. LeMans about 3.5 seconds out from our top trio right now. Zellum not the greatest run through that chicane, and puts Mashiro right back on them. Does Bacon have a chance to maybe get away from Zellum and Mashiro, maybe break the draft a little bit? Already Lamborghini, who started up near the front, has fallen to 12th place, 11.4 seconds out of the lead. Darkstar's recovered a bit from his incident earlier. He's back up to 9th, but still 8.1 seconds out of the lead right now. Not a great exit for Zellum. Mashiro has a fantastic exit, though. Side by side between Zellum and Mashiro, and that is Bacon just ahead of them. They might be close enough to still get the draft off of Racing Bacon. We could still have a menage a trois here for the top spot in the grid. TNR Blade in 4th, Iris in 5th, and it looks like Blade may have broken the draft from Iris just a bit, but without draft, I don't see any way that Blade catches this lead trio. Unless Blade is just going to end up being that much faster than them. But it's still Bacon leading Zellum and Mashiro. Zellum and Mashiro go side by side into the first of the 2 Mulsanne chicanes this time by. They're both a little bit closer to Bacon this time than they were on the prior straightaway. Zellum in 2nd, Mashiro 3rd. Bacon moves over to the right, trying to set himself up for a normal traditional line. Zellum, though, has the draft. Does Zellum try to pull to the inside, go for a big dive bomb to get the lead here? That's exactly, well, it's not going to be a big dive bomb, but Zellum has pulled alongside Bacon, side by side. Can Zellum clear him? Bacon lets off the throttle, let Zellum has it, says, okay, you can go ahead, you can be the driver, leading into the next chicane. Zellum not really good on the apex, though, and Bacon's going to get him on the exit. So Bacon, with a little bit of racer intellect and racer's intuition, gets right back by Zellum. So it is still Bacon, Zellum, and Mashiro, 1, 2, 3 on the grid. And now they come up to the hill. Crest the hill. Bacon on the outside. Zellum looking at the inside. Mashiro hangs out in 3rd, not really pushing the issue, just calmly hanging out in 3rd position for now. Not a great line by Zellum, way too tight on entry, and that compromised their exit momentum, and Racing Bacon goes back to the top. This time, though, Mashiro is actually going to follow, so Mashiro goes back into the 2nd spot, Racing Bacon still leads here. But not for long. Mashiro on the inside of Bacon. And now it is Zellum, who is third in line. Is he going to try and make it 3 wide? He wants to, but Mashiro moves down just enough to keep Zellum from having a room to make it 3 wide. So it's still side by side for a lead. Zellum kind of locked in the third spot. Who goes deeper into braking this time? Oh, a little bit of contact between Mashiro and Bacon. And that lets Zellum get to the outside of that Mike's Hard Lemonade car, but can't hold it there. So now Mashiro gets back ahead of Racing Bacon. And this group right now is 4.9 seconds out from the lead trio at the this group is 4.6 seconds out from the next trio at the moment. So it does seem like it will be Mashiro, Bacon, and Zellum dictating the win of this race. Zellum backs off just a little bit, as is Bacon closing back in on Mashiro here. No big moves in the Porsche S's this time, I'd imagine. No need for them right now. Just a little bit wide by Mashiro, but they all keep it nice and smooth and clean for now. It's only lap 2. The stakes haven't gotten too high, although Mashiro does briefly touch the dirt, put up a small cloud of dust, but nothing really to be concerned about. Although Mashiro really wide as they came out of the Porsche curves. And every time you run super wide like that, you really run the risk of unsettling the car and spinning yourself out. And it looks like Mashiro and Racing Bacon are both going to say, we want to flip the strategy. They are going to pit at the end of lap 2. So Zellum is going to go into the lead. And more significantly, in my opinion, Zellum is going to go into the lead with nobody to draft with. And I think Mashiro and Racing Bacon, they are going to be the only 2 drivers on this alternate strategy. So now it is Zellum who leads. Iris goes up to second. TNR Blade up to third now. Rostad's fourth. Darkster now will inherit fifth. YOLO Menace is going to inherit 6th position. Jagged SGT will inherit 8th. Toasterler will get 7th. Dragon Man 9th. Lamborghini will end up going up to 10th. Mashiro and Racing Bacon are going to have a lot of clean track, but they need to be nice, fast, and clean now because they're going to have 3 laps and they are going to be at a slight tire disadvantage to the end of this event, but they will have a significant tire advantage for the rest of this lap 3. And again, Zellum out in front has no drafting help whatsoever. He is in a rough position with no drafting help whatsoever. Iris, Blade, and maybe even Rostuds in fourth place may have a chance to slowly just chip away at Zellum's gap over them and slowly close the gap down. But I like what Racing Bacon and Mashiro are doing. They saw everyone on the same strategy and said they're never going to be able to do anything unique if everyone's on the same strategy. Even though they were leading, they said, screw it, we'll try something else. And they jumped onto an alternate strategy. I love that. It makes things so much more interesting as the event goes on here. But they have to be perfect. They have to be clean now. They've got clean track. They don't have to worry about anyone else to fight with, but they have to not fight with each other and put down the best bloody laps they can imagine. As Iris and Blade have now closed the gap from themselves to Zellum down to less than 3.5 seconds. Rostad's trying to hold on to Iris and Blade, seems to be struggling to do so though. Iris and Blade were the duo that were fighting for the win in race 1. Are they going to end up being the duo fighting for the win in race 2 here as well? Iris on the right-hand side, Blade on the left-hand side. Who goes deeper into the corner? Looks like it's Iris just a little bit. And using the draft. Oh, big slide by Blade on the exit. But using the draft, Iris and Blade have closed down to being within 3 seconds of Zellum. Although Blade, having lost all that time, it's going to kill that momentum a bit. And now Rostuds has caught Blade. And Rostuds flies right by Blade with no issues. Could Rostuds maybe try and close in on Iris? Gap is about a second right now between Iris and Rostuds, and with no draft, it will be a lot harder. Not impossible, but with no draft, it will be a lot harder for Iris to close the gap down on Zellum here. Out of Mulsanne corner, Rostud still has it over Blade, but Blade has gone to the inside line, trying to make something happen back here. As these two are fighting, they have lost the draft on Iris. So Zellum running in there all by themselves. Iris running all by themselves. Blade and Rostad's the first duo that have draft at this stage of the event. Mashiro and Racing Bacon still running at the back of the grid right now. And when we see our leaders coming to make their stops, we'll take a look at Mashiro and Racing Bacon, see how many positions they gain back, having ran an entire lap in clean air. As long as they weren't spending a lot of time fighting, it could give them some fantastic track position here. For now, Blade has it over Rostad's, and now Blade trying to close back in on Iris so they can do some drafting shenanigans to try and close back in on Zellum. Iris's gap to Zellum is holding steady at about 2 seconds right now. Blade is about 1.1 seconds out from Iris at the moment. That is Darkster back there in 5th position right now, trying to close in as well. But it looks like Blade is fast enough. He's actually running away from Rostad's, and the draft is fading away. So the field is getting a lot more spread out, partially due to strategy, partially just due to the inverse grid. But the field has gotten a lot more spread out, and I think that will be the best thing that could happen to Zellum and to a lesser extent, maybe even Iris. Rostad's sees Blade miss the corner coming into the portion curves though, and Rostad's immediately closes back in on Blade. Blade now 1.5 seconds off of Iris. Oh, Rostad's took a little bit too much speed in there, but use that to still close in on Blade just a bit. Oh, big slide! Was that Iris? That's Iris! And Iris has spun out! Our second place driver, Iris, has spun out all by themselves! And Zellum ducks into the pits, but Iris has lost a tremendous amount of time! And Zellum pits! Blade had a bunch of mistakes. Iris had a big spin out. Rostad just doesn't seem to have the consistency. Darkster had that instant back on lap 1. Zellum, even though they have no draft, still has maintained most of their gap over the rest of the field. But now we look at Racing Bacon and Mashiro. Where is this duo going to be in relation to Zellum, in relation to Blade, in relation to Rostad, Iris, and Darkster? Well, Iris has slipped all the way back to 9th position. That spin absolutely has tanked any shot that Iris had of rebounding with a win here. How many positions is this duo going to take here by pitting when they chose to? Coming out of the pit lane now should be Zellum. Here comes Racing Bacon. Here comes Here they come, Racing Bacon and Mashiro, and they'll clear Zellum. Not only will they clear Zellum, they have absolutely pulled a gigantic gap on Zellum as well. So Zellum, with no draft, has lost a significant amount of time to the duo of Racing Bacon and Mashiro. And then Blade is now 4.4 seconds out of the lead. But the thing is, though, Racing Bacon and Mashiro, they have track position, but they are at a slight tire life disadvantage now, and they're really going to feel that on that 3rd lap when the tires are going to be on their most worn. They're going to be leaking out the most amount of temperature down the straightaways, and they have to ask the most out of them in the braking zones. The final lap is going to get interesting because whether or not Racing Bacon and Mashiro are able to scoot away from the rest of the field or not, the big thing I'm going to be looking at is tire life. What are their tires going to be able to do on the final lap compared to the likes of Zellum, of Blade, of Rostad's? LeMans and Toaster Lord running way back here in the 7th and 8th position. They are in a bit of a draft, but they are 10 seconds out from Darkster right now, just not having a great time. If they could hook up and put together these 2 last laps really good, they could clip 6th position from Darkster, but that 10-second gap might be too much as we get a little bit of door baiting between the two of them back there. And Rostad's just snuck by Blade as well, so it looks like Rostad's and Blade are doing some drafting shenanigans. And if they can do their draft shenanigans well enough without losing too much time, and doing that by both Blade and Rostad's is not helping, but if they can do it without losing too much time, they might be able to clip Zellum for 3rd position here. But we look at Racing Bacon and Mashiro. What are their tires looking like? 22% already. They already have a significant amount of wear on their tires. Again, it's not like their tires are going to be completely gone. It's not like their tires are going to be completely out of control. But they're definitely going to be feeling some tire fall off. There's definitely going to be a lot less grip for them on the final lap compared to everyone else on the track right now. Bacon holding station over Mashiro. Mashiro started on the front row in race 1. Had an instant, though, right away in the Dunlop curves. that dropped them to the rear of the grid, and they were not able to regain most of their positions. But now Mashiro, on the recovery drive, on the comeback, racing Bacon, fought for a podium throughout most of race 1, had it snookered from him near the end, though. What can they do this time by? A little bit wide, a bit of a slide. Mashiro still holding station over Bacon, though, for now. And Zellum has almost been caught by the duo of Raw Studs and Blade. Darkster is still pulling away from Toaster Lord. YOLO Miss is losing Toaster Lord, is being caught by Dragon Man. Iris is still back there in 10th with Jagged SGT right now. And Lamborghini is 12th and the last of our still running drivers at the moment. Mashiro leads, Bacon in second. Does Bacon try and go for a move now, or is he willing to just hold back, just wait until the final lap? They have almost 4 seconds on Zellum right now. Bit of a slide by Mashiro, but they'll hold their positions without too much issue. Zellum has just about been caught by Blade. In fact, I think they're close enough down the run up to the Porsche curves. Blade should have the draft on Zellum here. Side by side at the head of the field, Bacon and Mashiro. Bacon to the inside, Mashiro to the outside. Who backs out? Who goes deep? Do either of them go too deep, actually? No, looks like Mashiro backs out just a little bit. Lets Race and Bacon go to the point. Not willing to fight the issue, not willing to push the issue right now. So Bacon leads, Mashiro hangs out in second. Bit of a slide. But nothing too catastrophic. And that's going to be catastrophic. Bacon has a gigantic slide coming out of the Porsche curves. And Mashiro had to run wide to avoid. They're both going to lose a huge chunk of time out of that. And that means that Zellum now closes the gap back down from him to this duo to less than 4 seconds. But still, with only 1 lap left, he's going to need this duo to make a lot more mistakes. But now this is where the tire difference is really going to come into play now. But Zellum still has to fight with Blade and Raw Studs as well. White flag, final lap around for tonight's doubleheader at Le Mans. I'm going to be really interested to see what Mashiro and Bacon's tire temps are going to be looking like at the end of these straightaways here. Oh, wow, Bacon is wide. Bacon is really wide through there. Lost a huge chunk of time. Zellum's now closed that gap down to less than 3.5 seconds between himself and the top 2. And Zellum is still leading Blade and Raw Studs. And Darkster is still holding on in 6th. If these drivers have an issue, Darkster might still be able to clip a top 5 result out of this event. A little bit wide there by Zellum. Blade is still right there. Are these two going to fight? They're still 3.5 seconds out from the lead duo. It looks like that duo is going to fight. Bacon now trying to close back in on Mashiro, but I want to look at the tire temperatures. How much temperature are these drivers losing in the straightaways? Already you can see the rear tires freezing, dropping down to the 160s in tire temp. The front tires are starting to freeze. They're falling to the 160s. Heavy under braking. That lets them regain a little bit of their tire temperature. But is that enough? The right rear is still frozen though. On that Mike's Hard Lemonade car, it's going to become harder and harder for these drivers to put the power down as this goes on. But they still have 3.5 seconds over Zellum and Blade. It might just be Bacon and Mashiro fighting for this win here. They may just have enough of a gap that they can deal with the tire fall off and not worry about it too much. Bacon running the outside line. Mashiro following. Does Mashiro go for a big dive bomb? It is the last lap. You can't save the final move, though, for the final corner. You got to make the move sooner rather than later. Track position is going to be incredibly important the final quarter of the lap here. But for now, it is still Racing Bacon over Mashiro. Now the gap's opening back up. It's back over 3.5 seconds between the top 2 and 3rd place. Rostuds has lost the duo of Blade and Zellum, in fact, as well. Into Mulsanne corner for the final time tonight. Bacon a little bit skeevy on the track limits, but I'm guessing it will still cut. It will still count. But it was a little bit cheeky on that line. And Mashiro now falls to about 4.5 tenths of a second out from Bacon. But Mashiro has the draft. He can use that to really close the gap back down. Zellum and Blade have now fallen more than 4 seconds, almost 4.5 seconds out of the lead duo. So yes, as long as these two don't crash, it is all them. Will it be Bacon? Will it be Mashiro? Mashiro looking to the inside. Who goes deeper? Coming into Indianapolis this time. They both jump on the brakes at the same time. Big slide by that yellow Mike's Hard Lemonade car. Can he keep it under him? I think he can. He can. And Mashiro does as well. Mashiro looks to the inside. Bacon almost left the line open. But by looking to the inside, Mashiro compromised their line coming out of Arnage. And now look at this. Bacon had a fantastic exit. That gap opens up to 6 tenths. That might have been it. That defensive line by Bacon, that may have decided this race. Because unless Bacon makes a big mistake, I don't think there's enough time or track position left for Mashiro to get this position back here. Porsche curves for the final time. Mashiro used the draft to close back in to about 4 tenths out from Bacon. But now the gap might just be too big, and there just may not be enough time. Race and Bacon hung out in the top 5 the entirety of race 1, had to run their way up the field here in race 2. Big twitch and slide though. Mashiro has a run, but is it enough? It does not look like it's going to be enough. I think it's going to be Bacon. He just has to navigate the Ford chicanes for the final time tonight. Checkered flag in the air. Mashiro closing in significantly under braking, gets right underneath Bacon's rear bumper, but there's not enough time. There's not enough race track to make contact side by side, and it's gonna get him. Mashiro got him. Mashiro got him. Bacon went too aggressively. They grinded doors side by side, and on the outside, Mashiro blitzed Bacon. Mashiro, in what's gonna be one of the most controversial finishes in TORA history, has clipped Racing Bacon for the victory here at Le Mans. HYR Zellum will get 3rd, TNR Blade will get 4th, Rostuds will get 5th, Darkstar 6th, Toaster Lord 7th, Iris 8th, Jagged SGT will get 9th, Lamborghini will get 10th, 11th will go to Yellow Menace, and 12th will go to Dragon Man. We're going to take a Twitch-mandated ad break here, and when we come back, we will talk to our winners from the 2 events tonight. Hello, Blade, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, awesome. I hope that Mashiro will be able to jump in as well. Once this Twitch mandated ad break is over, we'll do some interviewing here. Okay. Looks like Mashiro's going to try anyway. It might take Mashiro a little bit of time to get in here, but it looks like they are going to try. But I'm going to start with you anyway, Blade. You know how to include your audio still, right?
Sorry, just muted while I'm meeting. Yes, it's already included.
All right, cool. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you back here to Le Mans. Our doubleheader events for the Mazda Miatas are over, And in the booth with me right now, I have our Race 1 winner, TNR Blade. Blade, it was a very interesting time. You and Darkster and Iris really getting all elbows out there, but in the end, you came out on top. What do you have to say about your run out there?
I will say it was very reminiscent back on the Formula Mazda days on FM7. I remember Larry and I, back when we raced those cars here, same exact strategy I was pulling with Iris, just unfortunately myself and Larry crashed back in the day, but glad I was able to actually keep it clean this time. Iris put up a great battle. He probably would have won it if he didn't get loose coming out of the Porsche curves, but yeah, a lot of fun, and glad I didn't run out of fuel like sounds like Bacon did in the second race.
Oof. Ooh, that would explain so much. All right, Blade, you also had a relatively strong run in race 2 as well. Came back to a 4th place finish. So not only did you win race 1, you took home more points than anyone else today. What did you do in race 2 that let everything play out like that?
Survived, and even then, I still wish I had a bit of a cleaner run through traffic. It just got caught up in the aftermath of everything that went down on the exit of the first chicane on lap 1, and if that hadn't happened, I feel like I could have easily contended for the win. I absolutely had the pace. It's just, excuse me, unfortunate timing, just trying to get through traffic. Bacon and Mashiro here did an excellent job getting through and avoiding the chaos. So, yeah, other than just trying to pick my moments a little bit better, there wasn't really much else I could do. It's just a giant wad of cars on the opening lap, so there's not really going to be much else you can do other than just lick the stamp, send it, and pray.
All right, one last question before I let you go to sleep. Blade, are you going to be running in tomorrow's 24-hour of LeMans TORA event? And if so, what team, what car, what lobby can we expect you in?
You can find me in B lobby, running for the number 29 HYR entry with Iris. Going to be running stints 8 and 12. Hopefully, will be, it might be stint 9 actually. Either 8 or 9, either way. Gonna try to get as much sleep as I can tonight. Going to be a very long day for me leading into my overnight stint tomorrow, so looking forward to it.
All right, I'll let you go sleep, mate. Knock yourself out. And that was the word from our Race 1 winner, TNR Blade. But now I want to talk with our Race 2 winner, Mashiro V7. Mashiro, in the Xbox party, can you go ahead and include your audio?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
All right, Mashiro, that was a amazing drive. How did you do that?
I had a very good launch from P5, P6, I forgot. And I managed to climb up to P3 before Pedro Rouge on first lap. And someone in front of me fucked up so hard. So yeah, I managed to overtake them. Then yeah, then Racing Bacon. There was a battle against Racing Bacon. We pitted at a good timing. Then I enjoyed the battle against him. Yeah, I was P2 before final scan, but Racing Bacon round fewer, so yeah, I managed to win. Lucky, yeah, it was so lucky and very fun race.
Dude, when I saw you and Bacon coming to the checkered flag there, I was like, there's no way. I was already saying, oh yeah, Bacon's going to win. Oh my God, he's not! It's Mashiro! I was so shocked. I have never See, well, I shouldn't say never. Only once have I seen something like that before. I can't believe what I saw.
Yes, Sam, I can't believe that. I thought, I'm gonna end up in P2. Yeah, this was so unexpected.
All right. One more question. Will you be running tomorrow in the 24 hours of Le Mans?
Yeah.
What car will you be in?
GT3 class, car number 26, AMG GT3, Team Stakra with B-Side Motorsports.
What lobby is that?
Lobby, C lobby. Looks like we are starting from pole position.
Ooh, nice! Hey, that'll be fun to watch. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Mashiro, fantastic time out there. I know you had the incident back in race 1, but that race 2 is just chef's kiss. Thank you very much for jumping in and talking with us as well.
Yes, thank you. See ya tomorrow.
All right. And that is the word from our winners from both race 1 and race 2 tonight. And with that in mind, we will wrap up our broadcast here. But for those of you who want more Le Mans racing action, don't you worry. Tomorrow there's going to be a full 24 hours of racing across 3 different lobbies, A lobby, B lobby, and C lobby. I will be covering a lot of broadcasts for stints in the C lobby tomorrow, so I highly encourage you jump in and check me out then. But until that time, I've been your host for today's broadcast, Insane Leader 13. Thank you everyone for joining us. Farewell and goodbye, everyone.